Welcome back to you and to me, boys and girls. It is week 10 of the 2022 edition of the Carla and Crappy Show, week 9 of the college football season. It's funny how it works out that way. Yes. And we are at, no pun intended right there, we are at one of my favorite weeks of the season. And Carla, I believe yours as well.
Yes.
Judging from what our apparel is.
Yes.
So, and we'll get there.
We will. Yes.
we will get there.
We are, and we will.
Right. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I'm like,
I'm not converting you. That's what makes this week fun. But I am very glad you were back. Thank you. Last week was fun. Got to sit in the driver's seat for a week, but man, I don't envy your shoes after doing that for 1 week. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't.
You guys did a great show. And I have a couple of things to reference from it when we as we go through the schedule this week. But no, I was super impressed and I super appreciate. I'll explain what's going on. But for right now, let's talk about college football. Yes. As we do, before we look ahead, it is the tradition here to look back. And there was a lot of fun stuff last weekend. Once again, Carla, what got your attention last weekend?
Well, I mentioned this at the end of the show last week. We were talking about the Penn State game last week. That I had family in town last weekend, and so my football watching was very sporadic.
Okay.
And most of my analysis is off of the Penn State game, which I watched most of it with my dad. Sure. So obviously I'm going to hold those notes until we get to the big game later. But so otherwise, outside of that, what I saw, Texas Oklahoma State lived up to expectations. That game was silly fun. UCLA Oregon really didn't. Like we hyped the hell out of that game, and yes. Like that was not even like that was Oregon's game from start to finish. Like it wasn't, the final score does not show how much Oregon dominated that game.
Bo Nick's best day as a college football quarterback, maybe?
Possibly. Yeah, I think you can make that argument pretty clearly. Because to the extent of like, we all had that game like, this is the game. I turned that game on and we shut it off at the start of the third quarter.
Okay.
And changed games because
you didn't need to see anything else.
No. Which was surprising to me. I also saw the first half of Syracuse and Clemson, which lived up to expectations. Syracuse definitely looks the part of a contender, even though they lost that game.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Syracuse is good. That was sort of the question you guys had last week, and yeah. Clemson, to briefly touch on my ACC thing, Clemson looks more and more the part. Even with DJU having the lousy day that he had, that's that team. They make progress every week, and it's impressive so far. But Syracuse, yeah, for real, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll talk more about them in a little bit, or I will, towards the end of the show. And then I did have a weekend was so bonkers I don't even remember what happened, and mostly it's because I didn't see what happened.
Okay,
but I was keeping tabs on this, and that is the fact that South Carolina beat Texas A&M. And the most
there is that
that happened, right? 30-24. The difference in that game, you can argue this was the difference in the game. South Carolina returned the opening kickoff 100 yards for a score, and the final margin was 6.
You're saying that, let's see, a touchdown is worth 6 points, and then, okay, I got it. I think I understand where you're coming from here. Yes.
Yeah. We'll talk more about Texas A&M in a bit too.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, that was one of those games that kind of flew under the radar unless you're a fan of the SEC, and then it definitely was on your radar. But yeah, that was a game that kind of got lost in the shuffle until I went back and looked at it later.
Yeah, a little bit.
That was a thing. Yes, it was a thing, and it was a big deal.
Okay.
So that was my weekend, kind of, other than the Penn State game, which I'll talk about later.
Yes, we will do that. Yes. I getting a chance to see Ohio State play Iowa was something I've really been anticipating for a couple of reasons.
Why?
Just I am not well. We'll go ahead and stipulate that. First, probably the best defense, although I'm not sure about this weekend. But statistically, the best overall defense that we're going to see this year. And I was curious about what Ohio State's offense would do with that. Second, I think this is the best benchmark, the best kind of first and best opportunity to make sort of an apples and apples comparison to the team in Ann Arbor. And on that latter thing, I think Ohio State acquitted itself very well. Although I will gladly stipulate that Michigan played Iowa on the road while Ohio State played Iowa in Columbus. So that's I think that's a significant difference. The former, it's funny. AJ talked about this a little bit, and although he didn't get the numbers exactly right, he laid out how the game would go, and it turns out he was correct with halftime adjustments in place. And that, guys, might be the best thing that Ryan Day does. In game coaching, figuring out what we can fix at halftime in that short little window, and then coming out and executing when the team comes out and executes. And that is what happened on Saturday. There were halftime adjustments in place, and as AJ predicted, Ohio State stepped on the gas and pulled away. So there are other tests for Ohio State. Perhaps this weekend we'll get, again, I keep saying this, we'll get to that.
Yes, we will.
A brief check in on the Big Red Bears.
The Crayola Bowl.
The Crayola Bowl. The Crayola Bowl was actually won by the Big Red Bears, by Cornell's Big Red Bears.
Woo!
Just kind of on it's absolutely accurate to call it a goal line stand. There was a sack in there. There was a penalty on Brown, who their opponent, and they were playing Brown on the road. And with that win, Cornell is now at 4-2, which I don't know that anyone would have predicted that. The Ivy League media certainly did not. Mm-hmm. But the bummer for Carla and Crappy Show purposes is that my nephew, who is a Cornell running back, true pal. What are the three most not serious yet serious words a football player can hear when he's in the training room? I'll give you a hint. It's high ankle sprain. Ugh. However, he had the sprain early in the game. I think he had a carry or two. I know, and I did not see this in person, but my sister said that he had a great block on a touchdown run. So I mean, it's like getting back into the thing again. But early in the game, suffered the sprain. We saw him. He actually texted his mom during the second half and explained what was going on. Brief text with him this week say that the ankle is actually feeling pretty good. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he's only going to miss one game. Okay. And maybe this is one to miss. This weekend's game is at undefeated, tied for first place in the Ivy League, Princeton. So that's a scary game, but we'll see how he feels. He assures everyone that he is taking his training advice and whatever other treatment is going on seriously. And hopefully we'll see him back in a couple weeks. I want to thank AJ. AJ did think to look last week when looking at Cornell stats to check on Drew's receiving yardage, because that was the big play of from 2 weeks ago that Drew made in that game. And he still, at that point, he was still wearing the brace on his hand. So getting that catch in the flat, turning around and rumbling for 8 yards was a very cool thing. AJ notices this stuff, as we are all aware. And AJ, it is time for AJ's weekly tour through the G5 and late night offerings in this week's group of five after dark report. AJ, what kind of weirdness are we or should we expect this weekend?
Good evening, everyone. It is your friend AJ with your Group of Five After Dark report. I regret to inform you that it is a gross week. G5 action, few and far between. So what we're going to do is I am going to go through random games that interest me of some note. Will they be good? Probably not. Will they? No. In fact, I'm just going to say it now. They're probably going to be incredibly bad football games. Let us start at noon, because I know that you're probably going to be watching with deep and bated breath as Ohio State and Penn State do battle. I will not be watching that game. You know why? I'm sorry, Carla. I regret to inform you at this time that Ohio State is going to turn Penn State into paste. But we have a game at noon. You might be thinking, oh, it might be TCU WVU. Oh, maybe AJ's in his... Nope. Maybe it's Notre Dame and Syracuse. Nope. Syracuse, easy dub. Just putting that out there. No. Arkansas Auburn? Who knows? Chaos bombs, hooray. No. I will be on CBSSN, the Network of Champions, watching Boston College at UConn, because there's no reason. It's just gross football, and I can't turn away from a car wreck, I guess. UConn might actually win. UConn's not bad. They're not good. They're not bad either. Boston College, also not good. Kinda bad. Who's to say? Let's see. You know what? I'm here for bowl-eligible UConn, I guess is what I'm going for. We're going to keep scrolling here because also in the noon time frame, we have Toledo at EMU. That's for like an early lead in the MAC East. That's a thing. Sure, let's watch some action. The MAC has been stupid fun this year, and we should watch more of it. So let's watch Toledo at EMU. That's on ESPNU. Let's watch that game. That seems fun. Don't watch Rutgers, Minnesota. Don't do that. Let's keep scrolling. Whoa, wait a minute. Hold up. We have a good game. 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. We have Cincinnati at UCF. If Cincinnati wins this game, they are almost a complete lock. I believe they still have SMU left on their schedule before the AAC title game. Tulane has a bye week this week, and then they have Cincinnati to finish the season. So it could be, we might be getting Tulane-Cincinnati on back-to-back weeks, last game of the season, and then in the AAC championship game. Who is to say? Do not. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to lean into this one. ESPN2, 3:30 p.m., Northwestern at Iowa. The over-under on this game is 31.5. Hammer the under. Neither one of these teams is good. This is going to be an affront to God. But you know what? Sometimes we have to look at the darkness in order to see the light. Speaking of the light, also at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN3, New Mexico State at UMass. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Go Aggies. I want to go to their stadium real bad. Somebody sent me a picture of the view from the press box in Las Cruces, and it's beautiful. There's just these mountains that sit right over the top of the stands. There's Hatch chili. I just want to eat food and watch New Mexico State football in person. I want to do that. This one's for Carla. 3:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Our beloved Robert Morris Colonials, let's go Bobby Moe, are going to Boone to play App State. That's going to be bad for our beloved Colonials. We love you so much, Bobby Moe, but it's not going to end well for you. We're going to keep scrolling down because we have some things that we could talk about. The night slate is bad. You get an early night this week too. 7 p.m. on, as it says here, this thing called the NFL Network. I don't know what that is. Coastal Carolina at Marshall. That's a Sun Belt game. Should be okay. I really need Marshall to show a pulse. Coastal lost to Georgia Southern, and they're effectively their shot at any sort of big game at the end of the season is kind of over. They're definitely going to make a bowl. They're 7-1, so they're bowl eligible at bowl season. But they have to go to Huntington, West Virginia. beach chickens have to go to the mountains, and it's going to be cold on like Halloween. So probably not going to work out terribly well for them. But that's at 7 p.m. on the NFL Network. Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Don't do it. Can Texas A&M score more than 24 points? Challenge. You can't. I don't believe you. 9 p.m. I'm skipping Baylor, Texas Tech. Oh, wait. Hold on. We have to talk about Baylor, Texas Tech. Not because that's going to be a good game, because it will be. Because Texas Tech is tough. This is in Lubbock, and Baylor is playing well. But, and I mean that in every single way with an extra T, this is Butt Bowl. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but BU plays TT. It is Butt Bowl. So when you see the helmets, you can just giggle the entire game. This will also be a very good football game, but you can also giggle about it. Give me Texas Tech in an upset. But I really want to go down to 9 p.m. on ESPN Plus. We have Middle Tennessee State at UTEP. Carla, I'm real sorry. This is just me picking against Carla and her interests. We're like real hard. But the UTEP Bowl Bound Express needs to happen, okay? They made a bowl last year. We were all excited about it. And then they got to do it again. They need 2 more wins. Yeah, they have 4 wins right now. They need 2 more wins. Middle, you got to take a loss here. I'm sorry. At 10:30 on ESPN, we have Stanford at UCLA. Stanford is just going to score 14 points. They are the Iowa, but they're Iowa with money. They're expensive Iowa. They're going to score 14 points. Can UCLA score more than that? Yes, they can. This is also a night game at the Rose Bowl. That's just delightful. So UCLA is going to run the score up in that one. Finally, 11:59 p.m., Wyoming at Hawaii. Team One Sports app. I'm going to I'm just going to use this time now to tell you how to watch Hawaii football. You download the Teams One app on your phone. And you find Hawaii football mixed in with like LaGrange College field hockey or whatever. But you'll find Hawaii football is in the top list there. You click on that, you watch the stream will come up. You have to give them location access because they have to know you're on the mainland, because if you're on the islands, you got to pay for pay-per-view for the Hawaii football. That's a real thing. But you download the app, you hit the share button, you get the little link, and then you copy it and you send it to your computer somehow via email, text message, whatever, and then you can click on that link, give it location access, and then you can watch it on your big screens. That has been your Group of 5 After Dark and How AJ Watches Hawaii Football Report. I will be back next week, hopefully with a better slate of games. There's a lot of gross stuff. This is a good scoreboard watching weekend. Like, there's a lot of big games that are happening, but this is also like, what the heck is happening over there? Sort of things that can go on. We will see you all next week.
AJ, as always, thank you for your contributions and just your general awesomeness.
Yes. He actually volunteered to step in this week, too.
He did.
So,
he did.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and again, I'll explain, but hopefully that won't be a thing I need to do too often. Especially I should in theory have all the time in the world, but it's not quite that easy. Speaking of time, guys, as we generally do, Carl and I go through our picks in chronological order. However, you will note that while we're doing that largely this week, we are skipping over one very large naked weekly game that we almost always talk about.
Yes.
And that's only because we're saving it for the end. I'm sure you guys are absolutely in suspense as to what this is, because you have no idea this week what's coming. You have no.
If you're watching the show, you probably have a bit of a hint.
Hint. Don't.
Just a little hint. So this is your cue to like go watch the show. Like we're on YouTube too. So yes. Go watch us on YouTube and you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
You can watch it on YouTube. I post it to our Facebook page every week, so
also
you can do it there. But we will not begin there. We will begin at noon on ESPN instead, where the Horny Toads, number 7 Texas Christian University, is at West Virginia. TCU is favored by 7.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a mammoth 69. Carla, what do you think?
Yes, not quite as high as half a point less than UCLA Oregon last week. But yeah, Horny Toads have beaten 4 straight ranked opponents.
Yeah.
And they now control their destiny in the Big 12
Mhm.
for all intents and purposes. Let me pose a very huge question.
Sure.
Are we underrating TCU?
Ah,
When you look at their body of work right now, and Max Duggan is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You can't
no
disclaim
question.
that
No
at this
question.
point. Are we underrating TCU sitting at number 7?
We might be. And that maybe that's a product of what the Big 12 has been.
Yeah.
The past few seasons. I mean, you can't ignore the run that they've been on just in the last month.
Right.
As
that's
you
a
said,
gauntlet.
Max Duggan, his receivers, but that offense, wow. And that's not to say that the defense isn't actually by Big 12 standards. That's like
Right.
world class defense. We could be. We really could be.
I don't know the answer to that question either. Like that was something as I was going through the statistics and looking at their slate and what they have done over the course of the past 5 games. And I'm like, I think we might be underrating TCU. And if TCU runs the table, do they deserve the 4th spot to go to the playoff? Like, I think that's a legitimate conversation that we need to start thinking about. Because we're almost to the point where we're going to have that conversation. If they run the table and win the Big 12 and finish undefeated, are they the number 4 team in the country?
CFP first CFP rankings are next week, just prior to us taping the show. So we will get started with that process.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. West Virginia, they haven't really beaten anybody this year other than Baylor a couple of weeks ago, for the most part. What intrigues me about this game is that it's in Morgantown. I get that. Like, Morgantown always makes things interesting. TCU can't overlook this game. They've got some big games coming up with Texas Tech and Texas in following weeks. So this can't be a trap game for them. They need a good win here. TCU should win this game. But it could be because of the atmosphere, because of the location, because, potential look ahead game. I think this game could be closer than everybody is expecting, but TCU should get the win here. And then we're going to start having a conversation as to whether or not we're underrating them.
Yeah. Okay. I mentioned introducing this game. TCU is favored by a touchdown, 7.5 points. I'm actually curious what this line would be if this was a night game in Morgantown. Does that I think that swings the spread back a couple points in West Virginia's favor. And I'm not, West Virginia is not in the same class as TCU. Whether or not TCU is underrated at this point of the season, West Virginia is not there. But this is a game that West Virginia could win. I would be more confident in that statement if this was the 7:30 kickoff. And the folks had a chance to really get wound up.
Either way, it's gonna be a really fun quarterback battle.
Yes, and certainly of the games that we have on our list, the fun index of almost 70 points is. Just take a look at this one. It should be a good time, whether or not you have a rooting interest. I'm picking TCU, but this is a game that West Virginia could win. So take that for what it's worth. At 3:30 on Fox, we stay in the Big 12. Number 9 Oklahoma State at number 22 Kansas State. K-State is favored actually by 1.5 points, which is a really dumb spread. Also 56. That's for a Big 12 game. That's disappointing as far as I'm concerned. What do you think about this one?
Oh, and it's disappointing, and I think it's probably because of the K-State defense, right? I think that's what they're accounting for here. Is that the K-State defense is actually pretty good. And the fact that the line is stupid is because the game is in Little Manhattan, and that's respecting what. I think Oklahoma State would generally be favored here, but strange things happen in Little Manhattan, almost as much as strange things happen in Morgantown.
Ooh, and this is Halloween weekend.
It is. It is. And these are two teams that are, needing a little bit of a rebound here. The question to me is, the K-State defense is good by Big 12 standards, not as good as TCU. We saw that last week. TCU beat them. But K-State's defense is good. can they slow down Spencer Sanders enough to be able to keep up with them? That's the big question here, right? Because I mean, Oklahoma State can score a boatload of points. K-State generally doesn't. And so it's can the defense slow them down enough? But K-State's really dangerous at home.
Yeah.
I mean, you that's a huge factor here. I'm picking with my heart.
Okay.
And saying, because I love K-State
and
I love chaos in the Big 12 almost as much.
Yes.
Something stupid's going to happen in this game, and Kansas State's going to figure out a way to win it. And I don't know, like, it's just a gut thing for me. Like, I always love K-State at home. And when you have a good K-State team and Adrian Martinez plays really well at home, like, something about this says this is a K-State win. I could be completely wrong here, but I'm rooting for chaos. Go Power Cat.
Okay. Adrian Martinez, you mentioned that name. That of course is K-State's quarterback, who had been a quarterback at Nebraska.
He spent 17 years at Nebraska.
Yeah, I was going to say it was something like that. Handed off the ball got the ball from Turner Gill and all that fun stuff. Adrian Martinez left the game last week, fairly early on with an injury. I have read, again, this is early in the week. We're recording on Tuesday night, as we generally do. That he is going to be a game time decision for this week. If waffling like this makes me nuts, and I think my pick officially, I think, is going to be Kansas State. If Martinez is playing, I have no hesitation in picking K-State to win this. If he's not,
that
could still happen, man. And I am like you. I love the program. I think the stuff that they come up with at home is really impressive sometimes. So I'm going to pick him either way. But I would feel a whole lot better about this if I knew for sure that Adrian Martinez is going to be the guy for the Wildcats on Saturday. So go Purple Panthers. Something
Power
like
Cat.
that. Power Cat. Yeah. Okay. You're right. Thank you. Yeah. Next, 3:30, also at 3:30 on the one and only ACC network.
The mythical ACC.
The mythical ACC network. Number 10, Wake Forest at Louisville. Wake is favored by 4. There's an AJ Fund index attached to this one of 62 points. We like that.
That's good.
Carla, what do you think?
Is this a trap game for Wake? I mean, it kind of is, because Wake has 3 straight ranked opponents after this, right? So you have to wonder where the Deacons heads are going to be in this game, but you cannot take Louisville lightly. This is a Louisville team that's played really, really well the last 2 weeks. Although that being said, quarterback Malik Cunningham is also the Cardinals' leading rusher.
We've heard this before.
If your quarterback is your leading rusher,
that's not so good. It's not so good.
So that being said, Sam Hartman, still the quarterback that we thought he was going to be. They've had some really great games this year. I think Wake is the pick here. But you do have to wonder whether or not Wake is going to be looking ahead towards the gauntlet that they have ahead of them over the course of the next 3 weeks. But this should be a Wake win fairly comfortably. So I'm going to take the Demon Deacons.
Okay. I'm going the same way as well. And kind of for the same reason. If you couldn't blame Wake for thinking about the stretch run that they have ahead of them, and the taste of the ACC title game last year. Why not go back? Why not wrap that up? But if they're looking ahead, this could be a problematic game. And Louisville in the last couple of weeks is trending in the correct direction.
Yeah.
With a conference win on the road at UVA, and man, they thumped Pitt. Looking at highlights, I didn't feel like the game was as close as even the score would indicate. So,
Yeah.
this could be a fun game. This could be a tightish game. But this should be, if the Demon Deacons are present, this should be a Wake win as well. A start of a killer nighttime slate at 7 p.m. ESPN. Number 19 Kentucky at number 3 Tennessee. The Vols are favored by 12.5 with an AJ Fun index of a respectable 63.5 points. Carla, what do you think?
Stop me if you've heard this one. Is this a trap game for the Vols?
Trap game. You just
mentioned that, right? Yeah. This is trap game week, apparently, because here we are bringing a really good Kentucky team into Neyland Stadium. And who do the Vols have next week? Georgia, right?
Oh, yeah. And they're good.
And they're real good. Yeah. And so you have to wonder what the mentality is of Tennessee, because, obviously they beat Alabama, and then they cruised past UT Martin last week, and so they're up big time. They're number 3 in the country. You cannot overlook a Kentucky team that loves nothing more than to play spoiler. They've done it time and time and time again. This Kentucky football team, when they're not expected to win, they sneak up and bite you, and this is another opportunity where that could happen.
Do we need a Kentucky postulate somewhere in here?
Maybe.
They fit that. They fit that. Well, yeah, okay. They fit that role though.
They do
often.
Yeah, and they love to play spoiler in the SEC. Like that's their thing. And the Kentucky defense is real good. But is it good enough? We had the same conversation a couple games back, right? Is it good enough to slow down the Hendon Hooker offense? Because Kentucky doesn't have the same prolific offense, right? So you're going to have to really kind of keep that under control. On paper, this is a UT win. I think Kentucky keeps this close until maybe the third quarter, kind of what we talked about with Iowa last week with your Buckeyes, right? I think the game is close at halftime. People are sitting on their hands in Neyland. I think the Vols figure out a way in the second half to put Kentucky away, but this game is uncomfortable for the first 30 minutes. But I think the Vols ultimately win and set up one heck of a football game for next week.
Okay. I actually have a hard time, and this kind of fits into the Kentucky conundrum or postulate or whatever we were going to call this. Yeah. But you actually have a difficult time with figuring out week to week who Kentucky is. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, lost 2 straight conference games, and one of those was a home loss to South Carolina, which maybe seems a little better now that they beat Texas A&M, or maybe not. Maybe that's not such a big deal this year. But then they bounce back and handle Mississippi State on the road. Which team's coming? Which Wildcats team is coming to Knoxville? Mark Stoops. If you have questions about Kentucky, you don't probably have similar questions about Tennessee after what we've seen recently and what this team has evolved into, a team that can not only keep up with but pass Alabama. Handled Tennessee. Martin, is Martin doing okay? Is he recovering from that? Have you heard?
I'll check my sources.
Okay, yeah, please. I mean, that's something we don't get to hear from Martin very often, and that was kind of an ugly game. So we want to make sure that Martin's okay. Not having a hard time about figuring out what Tennessee is this year, and they are clearly one of the best teams in the SEC, if not the best. That is a thing we can talk about next week. But they will win this one, and in the end, I think pretty easily.
I was looking to see the status of Will Levis because I forgot to look that up before we started recording. Because he's had a number of injuries this season so far.
Yes.
And it looks like, based on what I've seen, that he should be able to go. But I mean, he's had a shoulder injury, he's dislocated a finger, and he's had an ankle injury as well. So he's been battling a lot of injuries. He hasn't really been at 100% all season. And so I think that influences this as well. If you had 100% healthy Will Levis, this game is hella interesting.
Yes.
But if he's not fully at 100%, then that I think Vols
similar situation to K-State and Adrian Martinez, I think.
Yep.
Levis, if reasonably healthy, versus Levis not healthy or not playing, Kentucky's an entirely different team in those in those situations. Odd placement for this one, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. 7 p.m. on the NFL Network. Coastal Carolina at Marshall. Marshall is favored by 2.5 points, with an AJ Fun index of 550, 5e to 55.5 points. The history the show has with Coastal.
Yes. Beach chickens.
The odd season that Marshall has had. I looked at this game and I'm like, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, it is interesting because, we joked on the show last week that the two teams that have beaten Notre Dame only had wins over Notre Dame, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was Stanford and Marshall.
Yes.
And Marshall went ahead last week and picked up a win over James Madison. So now they have 2 FBS wins. They have wins over Notre Dame and James Madison.
Mm-hmm.
How did they beat James Madison? They kind of ran all over them, right?
That's what a herd does.
That's what a herd does, right? Yeah, so Marshall likes to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
Coastal, our beloved beach chickens from the COVID year of 2020. The herd's defense is good enough to slow them down. It is possible that the herd defense can slow them down. Coastal lost 2 weeks ago. They're coming off of a bye. Coastal lost 2 weeks ago to Old Dominion, who ran all over Coastal's defense. Because Coastal's defense, not great. Marshall likes to run the football. That explains the line. I still think Coastal is the more complete team here, and they are the pick. But this is a game that if you like that undercard of college football, keep your eyes on this one. Have your thumb ready to flip to the NFL Network of all places for this game. But
I have Red Zone bookmarked, but I don't think I have the actual network.
NFL Network. We didn't get Red Zone this year, so I have NFL Network in my favorites. So
okay, there you go.
Because I've been watching their game day stuff instead of Red Zone. But yeah, this game is intriguing. Keep an eye on this one. If Marshall keeps it close, flip it on, have it on the flip, have it on your thumb. Because this is a game that if Marshall establishes its run game, that it could cause our beach chickens fits. I'm gonna take Coastal Carolina. They're the more complete team here. You can't pick against Grayson McCall. But keep an eye on this one.
This game is part 2 of me somehow falling into some weird West Virginia black hole football Mothman Halloween weekend. I don't know what it is. But both, the WVU game and this game caught my eye. I agree that the Beach Chickens are the better team. The spark, the magic that happened in 2020. This is not that. It feels different to me. And it's the same bizarre offense and maybe the same players and it's I don't feel like that the magic that existed back then is still available this year. And as I stated previously, a college football team in West Virginia playing at night on Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
Weird, wild, Johnny Carson. Weird, wild stuff. I'm picking the herd at home on Halloween Eve to beat the Beach Chickens. That's what we're doing.
Love it.
I don't have anything logical to say about that game. It is 100% just sort of feeling, but that is my feeling. I have a feeling about this next one. I have many feelings about this next one. 7:30 on ABC, Michigan State at Michigan. is favored by 22.5 points, an AJ Fun index of a not fun 54.4.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
That feels appropriate. I think the most important thing I have to say about this game is that strange things can happen in rivalry games. We've seen it happen time and time again, but Sparty defense. Ooh.
And that's so weird.
Bad. Like
to say that, yes.
Woefully bad. And it is so weird to say that. Again, Stranger Things, right? Maybe that's the theme for the show this week. Halloween weekend,
okay.
Stranger Things.
Okay.
Giving up more than 420 yards per game, bad. Like you don't hear that with a Michigan State defense ever, right? This is just a really, really bizarre year for Michigan State. Meanwhile, their offense is only netting 350 yards per game. So they're giving up almost 100 yards more than they are gaining. And that's just like upside down world for Michigan State. Unfortunately, I have seen firsthand what the Michigan defense can do to an offense.
Yes.
And that Michigan defense is real good. And going up against the Michigan State offense, that's just kind of okay.
That's sort
Team
of
up north is the pick here, unfortunately. I hope that because it's a rivalry game, because they've got the primetime spot on or on ABC, that this game can be entertaining. But I have a hunch that like if this is a Fowler Herbstreit game, like
I hope that should be too.
It should be, depending on where I don't remember where game day is going this week. It should be the Fowler Herbstreit game. If it is, I hope they have a lot of material ready because they might need it by the third quarter.
Game day was going to Jackson State. Hang out with Coach Prime.
Okay.
So
could be the Fowler Herbstreit game.
That could be. I don't know when that's on the schedule. That's something we can put in the notes or something like that. I don't know, but I don't know the answer to that question. I know the answer to this question. And it's actually fairly easy. I don't know. What's up with Mel Tucker. This is not at all what you would expect from him. It is not at all part of his coaching history.
Yeah.
And this one, maybe there's a chemistry issue somewhere because he was as busy in the portal as anybody in the country. But for whatever reason, the guys he brought in this year, at least not at this point, they're not the solution. And I could, if I was a Michigan State fan, I would maybe go as far as to suggest that somewhere in there is the problem. But that's neither here nor there. I think Mel Tucker's going to be fine at Michigan State if he is allowed the time to kind of get that turned around and figure it out. Jimmy's going to be more than fine on Saturday. There are weird things that have happened in this series. There are weird things that happen in rivalry games. But Jimmy got one monkey off his back last year. He's going to get this one as well on Saturday. And that's great. 7:30 on the SEC network, a wholly owned subsidiary of ESPN. Number 15 Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Note, Texas A&M is unranked.
Yes.
On the last weekend in November. The Rebels are only favored by 2.5 points. The AJ Fun index of a not fun 55. I guess I put this game up here for like the Jimbo unemployment watch, but that's sort of why it's interesting because Texas A&M is just putrid at this point. Yuck, they're awful.
Well, and I don't remember who wrote the story, but there was something in the Athletic, right after, I think it was a Sunday post, maybe it was a Monday morning, on the culture at Texas A&M right now is just absolutely in the garbage. They just had 3 players suspended indefinitely for various reasons. And as they noted, only one of them was really kind of a factor, like to actually see playing time on the field. But that doesn't matter. That's the culture of your locker room, right? And that everything. Texas A&M has lost 3 straight. They lost last week embarrassingly to South Carolina. Now, that's not discrediting South Carolina. South Carolina is putting themselves together a really nice season.
That's true. And I was sort of dismissive of them earlier when I was talking about Kentucky, but they put together a nice season.
It very quietly. Nobody's really paying attention to what they're doing, right? And maybe that's because the quality of competition just hasn't quite been there yet. But they're sitting at 5-2 right now, right? Like that's not a terrible place to be. Texas A&M having problems with off-field issues with player suspensions. Is Jimbo on a short leash? We had that conversation via text message after they lost to South Carolina. Like, does Jimbo survive Sunday? Obviously he has. The Aggies desperately need a win in this game. And if there's any bright spot for Texas A&M in this game, they're playing at home and they're playing an Ole Miss team that's reeling a bit after being upset by LSU last week, which I don't think really anybody saw. We didn't talk about that game.
And that was some thumpage, by the way. That was not an especially close game.
No, and so which was kind of surprising. I mean, we didn't talk about that game last week because I think we all kind of dismissed it. And LSU has been inconsistent, right? And so that's why we dismissed it. And so to see that kind of win, LSU starting to put it together, it's like, okay, well, that makes the SEC West even more intriguing. Thank you very much. If we've got an LSU team that's starting to fix some of the mistakes that they were making in the early part of the season. Ole Miss is the pick here. They're the more complete team. If Ole Miss wins this game and Texas A&M loses 4 straight, is that the end of the Fisher Jimbo era? What's his buyout? Like, I didn't look into the numbers, right? Like, I mean, to me, that's kind of we could be having this conversation next week as to who the next head coach at Texas A&M is. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, I think Jimbo would be really good on TV.
He probably would be.
Just saying.
As would Saban if he ever decided to, hang it up, which I don't
he
think
would
is
be different. He would be good in a different way. You almost want him like in the studio dissecting defenses.
Yep, exactly.
You don't Jimbo, however, Jimbo could be in the booth for a game. And maybe he'll get that chance. I don't know what it would take. I don't know what it would take for Texas A&M to fire him, given what they've been through already this season. But just how this game sets up, I suspect we're going to find out. Because this is his team is a mess. Old Miss has been playing solid ball last weekend, notwithstanding. I think they bounced back from the Bayou, and they beat the Aggies on the road, and then we'll see what happens. I suspect not so good for Jimbo with another loss on the docket. This one is the last one. And this is the one that we're sort of ignoring our chronological order, as we do occasionally on Big Nude. Number 2, Ohio State at number 13, Penn State. Ohio State is favored by 15.5 points. The AJ Fund Index is a promising 61. Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first? I can go first. Do you want the final word here?
No, I can go first. That's fine.
Okay.
Because first of all, I need to recap one very important thing from last week's game against Minnesota, and that is the fact that yet again it holds true that since I have moved to Nashville, anytime I get to watch a game with my dad in person, Penn State wins. So that record holds up.
And as referring to last weekend, not just wins. That was a great win. That was a great win.
Huge win.
Yeah.
And the recipe there is, I put here in my notes. Penn State has shown us both how to win a big game last week against Minnesota and how not to win a game against Michigan, right? And so the big question is which team shows up on Saturday.
Okay.
Sean Clifford, here's how Penn State wins the game, right? Sean Clifford needs to avoid mistakes and look for his tight ends. That's how they beat Minnesota, right? Yes. He found his tight ends early. That opened up the ability to go deep. It also opened up the run game, because I said that was one of my concerns about going against Minnesota, which was really good against the run. Clifford was able to open up that defense. They were persistent with the run game, and Nick Robertson just kind of ran free at one point, and you know, that was the end of that. Again, the game was close in the first half. They were resilient. So even against a really, really tough run defense, because we know that's what we're going to face against Ohio State, the run game has to be persistent. Even if it's not successful early on, you cannot abandon the run, because that's where Penn State gets its mojo, right? It's those young running backs. So Clifford's going to be the key here. Find the tight ends. Keep that run game going, even if you're only getting 2 or 3 yards per carry, because you cannot abandon the run and put this whole game on Clifford's shoulders. It's not going to work. It's going to end poorly.
We've seen that over the last 7 or 8 years, however long he's been the starter.
However long he's been there, yeah, right.
But seriously, if he has time, if he's able, if the Penn State offense is able to kind of take the pressure off of him, that's when he's really scary. Right.
And that's what he did last week against Minnesota, right? It was the most balanced play calling that we have seen out of this Penn State offense in quite some time.
Yeah, I agree. That was they called a good game.
Defensively, secondary's got to be ready. And that's been the kind of question mark on occasion with Penn State, is their secondary just hasn't always been there. They've made some good plays when they need to, but they're not consistent in the way that they play. Secondary has to be ready on every play. Penn State's defense has to slow down Ohio State's offense just enough to give them a chance, because you're not going to stop them. You just have to give them a speed bump, right? To bring that scoring total down so that you have a chance to keep up with them. That's what they couldn't do against Michigan. The Penn State defense failed that test against Michigan. They were not able to slow down the Michigan offense. They got deflated early on and were just never able to do that. So you're going up against an even more prolific offense. That's a big deal. The fact this game is at home and not on the road plays in Penn State's favor as well. Of course, like, you have to ask who I'm picking in this game, right?
I do.
I'm wearing the damn shirt. I even dug out the shirt from the 90s for this game. The Kijana Carter days.
If you can't see it, it's an awesome home field worthy retro shirt.
It is, which is why I didn't buy a home field shirt yet, because this one's better, right? It's got like the round football logo on it. You know, it's worn because I've actually had it since the 90s.
Hey, buddy.
So right, I wore this shirt in high school.
Nice.
I dug it out of the bottom of the drawer. I wear it on football weekends when the game's really important. I wore it against Auburn.
And it worked. Big time.
Yeah. So this is the shirt I'll be wearing on Saturday for this game. I do wish this game was at night. I do wish this game was the whiteout. I understand why they did it the way that they did it. But that being said, Clifford's got to be patient. He's got to find his tight ends. Don't abandon the run. Secondary, be ready. Those are the keys to victory. Penn State messes everything up and wins at home. Dear God, I hope. And that's a huge ask. Like, I get it. Like, I have my hesitations on this game. This is a hell of an ask out of this team, especially after what they did against Michigan, which was nothing. Do I have the confidence that they're going to be able to beat the number 2 team in the country? No, I don't. But we've seen how to do it now, and we've seen that this team is capable of making this game really, really interesting. And so, why the heck not?
They're capable of doing more than making it interesting. They're capable of winning this game. I was super stoked to see them play the way they did against Minnesota last week, because it's like, oh God, they figured it all out. Oh, this is not good. Oh, the 2 running. Oh, how many tight ends? How? So nothing a whole lot that's especially helpful for my football related anxieties. And this actually may have more to do with my college football anxieties and my college football brain. But that was my takeaway from Penn State last week. They can do this. And the fact that they're playing at home, not a night, not a whiteout, not a night game, but the the Fox News slot is slowly kind of building on me and I think probably everybody else. And it's like, okay, this is where the big boy games happen a lot of the time now.
And Nittanyville is still a thing regardless of game
Mhm,
time. So
yeah, absolutely. This is the first game of the season since Notre Dame, which is a kind of a funny thing to say now. But this is the first game of the season since then that I thought going into the weekend Ohio State could lose. I'm obviously I'm confident. Obviously Ohio State is having a pretty special year so far. But I'm looking forward to this. I told you that last weekend I was looking forward to see what Ohio State's offense could do against a defense as good as Iowa's. There's some of that this week, although I think Iowa's D is better overall than Penn State's. But that's still a test. It is still a test for the offense. I'm especially curious to see what happens with Ohio State's defense against what I think is the best offense that we've seen this season. You get a little Notre Dame uses tight ends. Michael Meyer on Halloween weekend. That's not his actual name, and I know that, and I don't care because it's not as funny. So Ohio State's seen that a little bit, but not to the degree that Penn State did last week for sure. Having a Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside at tailback for Penn State is its own challenge. Mm-hmm. And then if either of those things keep going, as you pointed out, that's when Clifford's dangerous. Right. And we make fun of him about being breakable and someone sneezing on him and he has to miss 6 weeks. But if he has that opportunity where a defense sort of has to back off a little bit and give him some time, that's a challenge, and it is the biggest challenge that Ohio State's defense will have seen so far this year. Yes, I'm picking Ohio State. Weird, as we've said before, weird things happen. And in rivalry games, weird things happen in settings like this. There have been more than once I have turned on or gone to an Ohio State Penn State game feeling pretty confident, and then going home disappointed because whoops, something happened. So football anxieties, they're up here. Maybe we need to come up with like a Mike Ohio State football anxiety index to go along with the AJ Fund index. It would be high. But this is a really, really good test for Ohio State. And I will pretty much be I would be thrilled to see a confident win. And then that may not happen. It may be another tight game, and we'll see how it goes. But for right now, picking Ohio State, feeling great. Woo! Okay, boys and girls. You can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube or on the show's Facebook page. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. And be sure to come back next week when we will get all of this stuff wrong once again.
And one of us is going to be really happy. One of us is not going to be happy.
True.
So we'll see how that goes.
Well, true. We usually handle that stuff pretty well, but yeah, it's just bound to happen.
Next week will be the guaranteed one of us hates college football week. That always happens.
It does. Yeah. We can just go ahead and I'm going to pencil that into next week's. Okay. One final thing, Carla.
Yeah, I got way more than one final thing.
Okay.
I got a bunch of really quick hit things that caught my attention on the schedule this weekend.
Then you should by all means go for it.
So really fast, noon Eastern, ABC, Notre Dame at number 16 Syracuse. Following up on the "Is Syracuse good?" conversation. They lost to Clemson at home, or at Clemson on the road at Clemson, in a close game. Hung
with Clemson largely for that. I was impressed.
Yeah. This is a game the Orange should win at home. Can they? We will find out. Again, we keep feeling like asking, is Syracuse good? They lost last week. This is a game that they should win.
Mhm.
Can they close out a national brand like Notre Dame at home?
Mhm.
3:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. My alma mater, Robert Morris Colonials at Appalachian State. In case you want to watch my alma mater get absolutely torched on national television, because unfortunately that's probably what's going to happen here. Bobby Mo football not doing so great this year. Haven't won a game yet this season. This is a huge ask of them. They don't play in the same level, right?
No.
Robert Morris plays
Yeah.
In the old 1AA. Now they're FCS. Yeah, this is a game Appy State's probably going to win big. But hey, if you wanted to see Robert Morris football on a national stage,
There they are.
here you go. It's
There they
sitting
are.
here for you. You have to mention Florida at Georgia, right? 3:30 Eastern on CBS. It's the cocktail party. Strange things happen in rivalry games.
They do. They
Particularly
do.
when Georgia's got UT next week. Is this a look-ahead game for Georgia? It's a rivalry game. I wouldn't think so, but keep your eye. There's a lot of good games at 3:30. Keep your eye on this one. Don't focus your attention here. This should be a Georgia win, but if this game's interesting in the third quarter, keep it on the flip.
Mhm.
And finally, as AJ warned us all last week, I have a late night ahead of me because my MTSU Blue Raiders are at UTEP at 9:00 Eastern.
Oh hell!
On
are you going to make it?
ESPN Plus.
Will that be like a nap required, or will you make it up through that one?
Or caffeinate. I don't know if I'm going to make it past halftime in that game. That's a super late game for me. So we'll see. It's on ESPN Plus.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've got a long day of college football ahead of me.
Okay. There are worse things.
Well, noon, like huge game at noon, and then MTSU at 9. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna need a lot of caffeine. The grab your coffee tweet. Like, I'm gonna need to like retweet the grab your coffee tweet at like 4:00.
Okay, we will be looking forward to that.
Okay.
I did want to explain briefly what the deal is with me and why I wasn't here last week. You guys are aware I work in the newspaper business in Pittsburgh. If you Google Pittsburgh newspaper strike, you will find out what it is that I am doing and not doing for however long this takes. I really, we're out. I'm not working. This has been surprisingly busy for the first couple of weeks. It was sort of an abrupt thing, so we're trying to put into place a lot of the architecture that generally you would want to have prepared weeks ahead of something like this. So not a big deal. It just means we're really busy, and I really appreciate AJ and Carla stepping up last week when I was just like I had zero bandwidth for college football or to get ready for this or anything else. And they jumped in and handled it. And as I said at the outset of the show, handled it with turned in one of the best shows that we've done. We've done. Who did this? One of the best Carla and Crappy shows that I've listened and I've heard for a while. So I appreciate that. It's possible that could happen again. I have no idea. And I'm not saying that in our normal show context, but I don't. So this is a very, very new thing for me, as it is with most of my colleagues, and we'll see. But for right now, college football is a fantastic refuge from the real world, which has suddenly become especially complicated, more so than usual. And man, as long as I can squeeze out some time for this every week, I want to keep doing it because I need it. I need to do this.
And I learned last week about how much longer it takes to prep for a show when you're the one that has to drive the car.
There is that.
So I have a greater appreciation for you sitting in the driver's seat every week because that took me that was like a 3-hour prep to get everything ready and get my notes ready and talk with AJ. And AJ was great as always. We appreciate him jumping in on the last minute kind of thing. And he kind of coached me through it. You didn't know this, we actually had a game plan in place in case you couldn't do the show this week as to how we were going to handle the show this week. And so we actually kind of put that plan in place. So if we need to do it again, welcome to the first ever Carla and Crappy show not hosted by Carla or Crappy. That was we were gonna flip it.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
he was gonna drive the car and I was gonna stick into my usual role, and so we're gonna go that route. So, but yeah, thank you, AJ, for jumping in. That was a lot of fun. And well, last week I ripped the emeritus title off of his title again. He's back to being interim co-host, and so we'll have to have him back on in studio again.
I like the McAfee reference, and the thing that he said about I show up, I have fun, and then I leave, and that's accurate. Yeah,
that's what AJ totally. That's the role AJ has had like since he started being on the show.
So maybe there's a like a McAfee belt or something we can get for him, right? I don't know what it is, but I think that was an appropriate assessment of his role. Maybe I'm just going to take a week off just to see what it's like as with him as host. So I might squeeze that in here sometime, like when Ohio State plays Northwestern.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, not this week. This week was too important. I'm really glad you're here this week.
Not this week, no. Not this week, no. Carla, OH.
We are.
I dig it. I totally dig it, guys. Enjoy your Penn State, Ohio State game. Enjoy your games. Enjoy the games that we've talked about, because there are a lot of fun ones coming up this week. This weekend. Thank you, as always, for watching. And we will talk to you again next week. Cheers. Beat Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah.